And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Bubba the Bloom, episode 20. Going to get you ready for your final, 10 days or so of fantasy baseball action for you degenerates that are grinding out like the rest of us. And talk about some relief pitchers to target for the last week of the season and much, much more. You can find myself on Twitter at BDintric. My co-host, as always, on Twitter at RyanBHQ. Ryan Bloomfield, how are we doing, my friend?
Doing pretty good. Feeling kind of weird this year, Bubba. Like we were talking a little bit before, but to be brutally honest, not my best year fantasy wise. And so I'm not really it's a weird feeling, like not sweating out any leagues or anything this September. So it's not like I'm waiting for the season to come to an end, but it's just a different feeling of not tracking every single pitch every night, which is probably better for my health anyway. But I know for the loyal listeners out there, this is a big kind of last push, and in head-to-head leagues, it's championship week, so we're here to help.
Yep, we're here to help, and that's why, like we said, we'll talk relief pitchers. We were supposed to record last week. That was my bad scheduling conflict. But we're going to get you covered because that final week of the season has like 3 games, maybe, ends on a Wednesday. Yep. So a lot of starters are going to be not worth a thing. So something to keep in mind, and some more coming up. We'll talk about some news here that might make some more guys even valuable as well. So let's get into that recent news, and we'll kick things off with one. Shane McClanahan leaves his start with, I believe, a stiff neck. He comes out on Wednesday saying he's fine. He'll make his next start. You never know. They were trying to stretch him out. He still hasn't even stretched out yet. There's a lot of question marks involved there. Like, is he going to be worth even starting next week? Lots of theories there. What are you looking at, Ryan, when it comes to Shane O'Mac?
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, if you have Shane O'Mac,
I like Shane O'Mac. That's an old WWF tribute to Shane McMahon. Shane O'Mac.
Okay. All right. I like it. I don't know. I mean, if you have McClanahan, you're rolling with him. Like, that's not obvious advice. I guess it looks like he's slated to start Sunday, but it's just, like the worst timing possible, especially if you're in like a playoff format. McClanahan is probably a reason that you are going this late into the season. And to have this happen, I think he gave up, 5 runs in 4 innings with more walks than strikeouts in his last start against Houston on September 20th. Like, not McClanahan, like, at all. You just kind of, all you can really do at this point is hope that was just a one-off and that was just like a neck thing that will go away. I don't know, man. I don't know about you, but like, I just have between this and the shoulder, like, it's just a twinge of doubt when we're talking about picking aces next year. And I know, like, a lot of the kind of the aces this season that had injury questions, like your Luis Castillo, Zach Wheeler, Verlander, like a lot of those guys have panned out. But I'm still going to be, I don't know, when you're kind of splitting hairs in that first, second round, looking at starting pitchers, I'm going to have a hard time kind of overlooking how McClanahan has finished the season in terms of just results, but the shoulder.
Yeah, I agree with you, because the difference with like Verlander and Castillo and a little bit of Wheeler is you got them more at a discount this past year, where Shane McClanahan is still going to go like in the second round in most drafts. If not, like, some people like love Shane McClanahan. Like, there was talks like a month ago he'd be a first round pick. So there's definitely people that like him enough to make it very tough to go and take a shot on McClanahan. And I'm going to pull up our early draft here.
That's what I'm doing, because I think he went
round 2 to Slack.
Okay.
Yeah. Brian Slack 2.6. 2.6.
You see, I think I was like, did he go in the first round? But no, he was the 6th starter off the board, mid-second.
And I think that'll be common in a lot of drafts, especially like main event style drafts. They'll see, especially if he gets into spring training and you see a couple good innings out of him and you get your confidence back up, and it'll happen. But I'm with you. It's like, I've always been kind of cautious of injured guys, like Pianowski, and a lot of smart people say it, like, guys are going to get injured throughout the season. Why draft them? It's already hurt. It's always a thing. And, he'll probably start the spring healthy, but I'm with you 100%. It's kind of scary. And I'm really curious to see if he starts on Sunday, for one, and how long he goes, because he was, it's only a second start back from the IL. He wasn't going that long yet. They were trying to stretch him out. It turns into the question, is like a 3 to 4 inning start out of McClanahan next week better than like a streaming reliever? Probably, but he's not getting you a win. So that's where it gets interesting.
Probably. Like McClanahan's giving you elite reliever ratios anyway. So like I said, I mean, you're rolling with him, but yeah, all you can do at this point is just hope. 69 pitches in his first start back from the IL, 80 pitches last time against Houston. So I mean, Tampa still has a lot to play for. So I think they'll be aggressive with him.
Most definitely. The Rockies, they usually don't like young players. They've played a lot of them this year. And now they're calling up one of the top prospects in baseball, Ezequiel Tovar. And he's pretty much making the Atlanta Braves jump, Double-A to the bigs. Been very, very productive in Triple-A, lots of speed. He was in the Fall League, I feel like, last year. It feels like. I remember that name sounds super familiar. Could be wrong. But absolutely, I'm kind of surprised. Like 10 days left, they're making a call for, I guess, get him a couple of bats in the bigs before next year. It's the only thing I think of. But what's your thoughts on Tovar, who, again, another prospect to bid on this Sunday? It might not mean much because they're out of Coors Field all next week, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, you covered it pretty well. Like there's a bunch of things at play here. At Tovar, I mean, I think the timing is weird, but I think they like what they see. They want to see a little bit more. And like you alluded to, Bubba, this is almost like a Braves type of promotion. 19 plate appearances at AAA, so he basically just stopped by for a couple of days and then going to Colorado. But the other point you made about when in terms of Fab, like Tovar, he's gonna play every day. I mean, I'm pretty sure they're not going to take Alan Trejo's bat out of the lineup with Tovar. So like, I think Tovar is going to play, but Coors is done after this week. So I don't know. I mean, if you absolutely need a shortstop or middle infield, it's someone who could maybe provide some speed for you. I mean, Tovar had he was 17 for 20. Stealing bases in Double-A this year. I mean, the numbers were great, /318, 386, 545 slug. So kind of like an all-around type prospect, 5 category. He was number 16 on the HQ midseason prospect list. So like the guy is legit. I think he's going to play, but who knows? I mean, it's all road games and over a week and a half sample, anything can happen. So a buck if you need it.
Yeah, it's a lot of Dodgers in play too, which doesn't make you feel all warm and fuzzy. So
they get the 5 games at LA to end the season. Now I don't know what
brutal.
LA's rotation will be like in those 5 games, but it's as we're speaking tonight, Dustin May is getting rocked against the Diamondbacks. So maybe it's not as fearsome as thought, but yeah, you're getting like Tovar for those 5 LA games at the end of the year.
It'd be a little brutal to say the least. I just wanted to make this note because you probably weren't roster him anymore anyways, but Nixon Zell is officially out for the season. He left the game on Tuesday, I believe. Another disappointing year for Senzel. 5 homers, 8 steals, 110 games, only a 231 average. Like we've seen the pedigree in the minors, it just has not transitioned. A lot of it's just been injuries, Ryan. He can't stay on the field. Doesn't strike out a ton, which is good to see, but just the overall production, the ability to stay healthy, it's just been a disaster for a guy that everyone had high hopes for at one point in time.
I mean, disaster like this year, last year, like pretty much his whole career. I mean, it sucks. I mean, this guy was, I believe, for HQ and probably everywhere, he was like our number 2. He got up to like number 2 on prospect rankings before being called up. And like, yeah, Senzel, I mean, this is the longest. He's had 420 plate appearances. Like, this is the longest we've seen of Senzel in the majors. And you noted the low strikeout rate, but there's also a 3% barrel rate with that. Like,
not gonna cut
it's the quality of that contact has not been there. Next season will be Senzel's age 28 season. So like, he's getting up there already, and you can only kind of hold on to that prospect pedigree for so long. And so like, it's not the most groundbreaking thing to say, fade Nick Senzel, but like maybe your last round or 2 of a draft next year if he's healthy. But that kind of percentage chance, and with any kind of minor leaguer, there's percentage outcomes for whatever. I mean, the Senzel we thought we were getting, the chance of that happening just dwindles every single year, probably 5% or something at this point for him to be what we thought he was.
Yeah, it's a big bummer. It's like a guy in a draft champions I might still want to take a dart on just because like he'll get him super late, but it's tough. He's not a Byron Buxton by any means, but he just has that pedigree where you had the hopes at one time he'd be a stud, and it's just not there. So pretty big bummer in that regard. Sonny Gray hit the IL with a hamstring injury, left his start this week after 2 innings, allowing 4 runs, getting shelled basically a week when everyone's like, 2 start Sonny to help me to my title, and got blown up. Like a lot of pitchers have blown up things already this week. So Sonny Gray to the IL. Drop City.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, I guess he's eligible. Gray's eligible to come back the last day of the season. So in the off chance that Minnesota has something to play for that last day, maybe they throw him. But no, he's a drop. And Minnesota, man, like I watched a couple of games this week. It looks like they've given up. I watched a day game against Cleveland, and like Jorge Lopez was pitching, I think the 8th inning, and bases loaded, threw a pass ball, and just didn't even leave the mound to cover home. Like there's just a lot of stuff like that. Like it's kind of falling apart in Minnesota. So yeah, like I said, unless they go on some miraculous run and have something to play for at the end, Sonny Gray, his season is over.
Yep, completely agree with you there.
And there's not much behind him.
No, it's pretty bleak, very bleak. And talk about Jorge Lopez. What a bummer that is. He was great in Baltimore, started out good in Minnesota. That's blown up in a big way. So see how that one keeps unfolding too. Going to Boston real quick, they officially made Cutter Crawford and Garrett Whitlock shut down for the rest of the season, which you kind of saw coming. The bullpen's been a mess. Like Schreiber's got it for a while. Barnes had it. It just looks like Schreiber, but who knows? And then Connor Seabold has kind of walked into Crawford's spot. So not sure there's a lot of fantasy relevance here unless you see something maybe in the bullpen.
No, it's just too much of a cluster back there. Too many names, and yeah, Seabold, I don't know, has not really done much into outings. So I'm staying away from the back end of Boston's rotation. Pretty disappointing year all around for Boston. If you're not named, I guess Michael Wacha, he was probably the only guy who
crazy
who actually did anything of all people.
Yep, of all people, go figure. It's going to be a fun team to break down in the offseason. Like with JD Martinez, does he bounce back? Does Xander even come back?
Yep.
There's a lot of moving parts in that team that could really change the landscape of Boston. So if you're a Boston fan, you might want to brace for impact is what I'll say.
That was one of the things, like JD Martinez. This popped up. I get a notification on my phone every time someone hits a home run, which is, well, I don't know, mildly annoying, but also keeps me in tune. JD Martinez has 12 home runs, man, like that, because it popped up on my phone and JD homered, and then it says 12 for the year. It's like, man,
I laughed when you put out that tweet. He was in part of your tweet today, right? About guys.
I put that out there.
I saw that, but I laughed. You got a Keel Madu with 2, and last night I was every night, like if I'm busy, I go through like the MLB app and I go to the summary to see how all the runs were scored and all this stuff, and it gives the number of home runs in parentheses, and I scrolled it said Keel Madu 2, and I had to scroll back. I was like, wait, only 2 home runs? Like, I know he's been bad. I know he's been in the minors, but 2 home runs? Like 2? That's it? So, and then you tweeted it today. I was like laughing. I'm like, God, it's just, wow, what has happened? But that's why what we do, Ryan, is so much fun. So much fun. It's, oh man, no rhyme or reason.
Predicting humans. Very easy.
Hey, you know what else is fun? Team that needs starting pitching depth traded Jordan Montgomery. Did you hear about that joke?
Heard about that.
That's a good one, because Frankie Montas goes to the IL, who was already hurt before they traded for him, basically. Then they traded for him, gets hurt again, goes back to the IL. It's been a rough go in the Bronx for Frankie.
A rough go, and the double whammy is like not getting Luis Castillo. So yes, they traded Jordan Montgomery, but they also didn't get Luis Castillo. And the trajectory of those 2 starters has, couldn't have been any different since their respective trades. And so, like Montas, it's a shoulder. Velocity's been down a full tick over his last 3 starts. Like, what was his ERA? I'm pulling up his 7 ERA in August and 5 starts, 5.14 ERA and 3 September starts. He's a drop for this season. I mean, that kind of broken record, but basically anyone who's hurt at this point is a drop if you need warm bodies. Just going to be interesting. Montas is just super. I feel like he's super streaky, and I don't have the numbers behind this to support this, but he's had a couple really good seasons, 2019, 2021, had a terrible 2020 and a terrible end to 2022. And a lot of what Montas, he just lives and dies with that split finger.
Yep.
And he has basically been quoted in the past saying he's lost feel for it at times. And I just feel like he's somebody who, can come and go very quickly, either, depending on the feel for his split. Yeah. Can't speak tonight. Split finger. Depending on, I don't know if it's the ball or whatever, but just someone who I don't know what you're getting next year if you're taking Montas. It'll be interesting to see his price, but a very wide range of outcomes for him.
And he's a great wild card. Like you said, he might, figure it out for another season, and it could turn into the, next year's Robbie Ray type stuff. Not to maybe that extent, but kind of the same idea. Next, Kevin Gossman. Let's go there.
I was just thinking Gossman. That's actually, so this just popped into my head. Like something to maybe do for the offseason is look at these kind of split finger heavy guys.
Yep.
Are they like super, do they have a lot of variance from year to year? Because Gossman's the exact example who popped into my head. That's funny.
Yeah, because I know Nick Pollock's ingrained into my head guys that are heavy splitters. It is the hardest pitch to throw consistently. Like it is just so difficult. So the fact Gossman's done it for like 2 years now, that's why every year people ask, like even when his second year at the Giants, I'm like, I'm out. I'm not paying the price because it's just there's so much volatility there. But it's paid off if you've done it. It's paid off. I'm still like afraid it's going to blow up, but hey, if he can do it, Montas has the skills. We'll just have to wait and see. It's I just hate him in the Bronx. That's terrifying to me.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, this one stings. I know. Trevor Rogers out for the season. Finally came back. Looked like Trevor Rogers. Like all of a sudden, we got Trevor Rogers for 3 starts, strikeouts, decent ratios. Life was good, and kablooey. So yeah, he's gone.
My year-long nightmare is over. Thank God. Actually, I dropped Rogers almost I kept him in labor. But just because they have an IL slot, but dropped him everywhere else. Just by saying that sentence, you can imply that I drafted a lot of Trevor Rogers this year. And oh God, I don't know. I'm glad it's done. I did watch that start with the 9 Ks. Like he did look really good against Texas. Like that's the Trevor Rogers I drafted. The one that showed up for 1 start on September 12th. I'm no longer on any of my teams. No clue what to do with him for next year. Like the wounds are too fresh for me to draft him right now. But I mean, another guy, young, like next year will be his 3rd year. Rookie year was fantastic. Plenty of rebound potential, but man, it's this was rough. He's going to be, once we do like post-mortem season, which is coming up, Trevor Rogers is going to be the highlight for me.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun 2023/2022 look back stuff coming our way. Because there's a lot of players I have questions about, for the good and the bad. Like there's a lot of questions I have. We got a long ways to go on that. But Trevor Rogers definitely is a guy, like you said, that little glimpse he just gave us, that little glimpse. It's like, okay, do we do it again? Do we do it again? You're still so young. And the Marlins know how to take care of their pitchers, unless you're Sixto Sanchez and can't avoid the buffet line. That's the only problem they have. But everything is good. So we'll see how that plays out.
I did notice, I think it was Corbin Young tweeted that he was doing a best ball on Fantrax for next year already. And I don't know. I think it was a 12-team league, but took Rogers in the 13th or 14th.
I think that's good value,
round.
Honestly.
So I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Like I said, the wounds are too fresh for me to think about it at this point.
Most definitely. Last bit of news I have, and there's more. Like keep an eye on Jose Altuve left Wednesday night's game. A couple other, like CJ Cron left Wednesday night's game. So some guys, as you're keeping a set lineups throughout the week, keep an eye on that. But Alex Wood was officially shut down with the Giants. I just wanted to mention it because he had quite the mixed bag this year. 5.10 ERA, but a 3.41 xFIP, about an 18% K to walk, which isn't great, but not bad for Alex Wood. He either had like really, really good starts or it was really, really bad. It was a weird season. Like most Giants starters, the defense did not do him kind at all. So I'm just curious where he goes next year. But yeah, his season is done, and the Giants are doing bullpen games and everything else, and somehow they're going to sweep the Rockies probably. So I have no idea.
Yeah, you wonder in terms of like streaming and takeaway, at least for the rest of this season, is streaming against the Giants, against the Giants pitching staff, because like, what are they playing for at this point? Like, why continue to throw Alex Cobb out there, like someone who could get so hurt? And same with Rodon, but yeah, I don't know. Wood and Cobb were like 2 guys who were so unlucky the first half of the season, and it did not change for Wood. It did change for Cobb. Wood, like, it's funny how much luck just plays a factor. So from 2021 to 2022, Alex Wood, strikeout minus walk rate, 19%, 18%. Ground ball rate, 51%, 48%. And xERA, which we use at HQ, last year a 3.34 and a 3.42 this year. So basically the same exact guy from a skill standpoint. The ERA went from 3.83 to 5.10. So exhibit number 843 of how much luck can play a factor in some of these starters.
It's a game of inches, as they say. A game of inches. So much fun there. All right, so that wraps up for the news. As I said, there's a lot of other guys leaving games, going to get some weird schedules. All these guys clinching already and stuff. So keep an eye on all that. Good luck with all that. Let's do it. Our weekend matchup game. Ryan is starting to put the wood to me. This is not good.
For me.
Yeah, I got smoked again. Not fun. Actually, we split last week. So that's a good start. Yeah, you're starting to pull away. Why does it say 10-10? Am I blind? Oh no, it's 12-8. Yeah, you're smoking me. Okay, what do you got on this one before I keep digging a hole?
Time's running out, man. Every split, you basically have to, I think,
I have to
sweep
sweep
out.
out. Yep.
To tie. And again, the thing on the line here is our round of golf on November 3rd at First Pitch Arizona, which I absolutely cannot wait for, man. I put the email out this week. There's probably like 9 or 10 of us so far in for golf, so
Beautiful.
hoping to get a couple tee times there, and just cannot wait. So that's what's on the line. Green fees for our golf outing, the Bubba Bloom Invitational, maybe we'll call it.
Yep, there we go.
Let's see what we actually both. So we're doing runs, RBIs, and hits for our hitters. We're picking each one of those, and then strikeouts. You know, for all the new listeners out there in late September, we're doing strikeouts only for pitchers. If you're new to the game,
you that really don't want to spend time with your family, here we are.
Yeah. I took you down 9-8, Brandon Marsh over Corey Dickerson.
That's what's so frustrating. Somebody's been so close.
Yeah,
the week before 8-7.
Yep, I've beaten you by 1 base each of the last 2 weeks, and 8 and 7 would have beaten me in the majority of other weeks. So it just happens. You took me with Brian Bayo, who's been a lot better. 7 Ks, that was nice, to Daniel Lynch's 4. So you need to step up your game this week, man.
Yeah, that's why we're going to Coors Field, Ryan. We're going to Coors Field. We're doing the lazy approach here, and I'm going Michael Toglia. The dude's been crushing baseballs in the minors, in the bigs. He's getting to play every day. Switch hitter. Been very productive. Had 2 triples on Monday night. I remember watching those in person on TV, I should say. But he's hitting at every game in this series. He's driving in runs. He's scoring runs. He's also got a lot of swing and miss, so anything can happen. But he's got some nice matchups this weekend as he takes on the Padres. And I know Darvish is on Friday, which is not a nice matchup. But after Darvish, he gets Manaea, which is always a great matchup, and Mike Clevenger. So I'll take my chances there with Mr. Toglia to get me on the board in the hitting department.
So same exact, like you didn't technically snipe me. You had the first hitter pick, but I was too busy to go with a different team. So I'm kind of boxing you in. That's my strategy here to play some defense. I'm going Jonathan Daza. I'm going with somebody who's hitting higher up in the order than your boy, than Toglia. So I'll probably get a couple more at bats maybe this weekend, but same exact reasons. The Darvish start is rough, but anytime you can get someone in court, especially Daza, who he's kind of built for this game, right? With hits and runs and RBI, like
OBP monster.
Yep, he's an OBP. He's not going to get you many homers or bags, but he's going to play. He's going to accumulate and in that park. So, even takeaways for listeners, like if you need those categories, if you need batting average, OBP, like that's the ultimate guy to get for this weekend. Like, again, Coors is donezo after this week, but still should be some decent run scoring in Denver this weekend.
Yeah, Coors will be a drop after this week, all your Rockies. So get ready for that fun stuff as well. I'll let you go first in the pitching department because I went first in the hitting department. So who is your pitcher this week? Because it's a familiar name.
Yeah, it is a familiar name. It is Bailey Falter. He is, let's see, who's he going up against? I can't even remember. Atlanta. So ballsy. Not the best matchup at all. And this is a similar
Ryan's trying to give me something here. Here we go.
Similar refrain, like that we've said all year. Just trying to pick a good swing and miss guy under 50% rostered, even in 12 teamers. Like it's really hard. And that's going to play, kind of a side tangent here, that's going to play into my drafting strategy for 2023. Just be a lot more, I think, pitcher heavy, just because it's so brutal on the waiver wire. But Bailey Falter, he's in the rotation. He's 3 strikeouts last time at Atlanta. So it is like the second time he's seeing at the Braves in a row. So that also probably doesn't help. I'm kind of talking myself out of this pick as I try and justify it. But
I think it's
don't
a
know.
great pick. I think it's a great pick, Ryan.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
I don't know. 11% swinging strike. He at least misses some bats, and that's something to say for that. So, but yeah, Atlanta. That's going to be an awesome race too. Atlanta and the Mets.
Be a really good one.
Way out here. So one game apart, I believe, right now. So.
Well, I'm going with Cody Morris. The Cleveland Guardians taking on the Texas Rangers in Texas in the minor leagues. Cody, 39 Ks and 21 and a third innings pitched. Now he's getting stretched out with the big boys. 6 innings in his last start, 6 Ks. He's basically a K per inning guy over his last couple outings. He's looked very, very effective for Cleveland. And you get Texas offense is very boomer bust. Like we've seen the good, we've seen the bad. But one thing Cody has done is limit the damage. It's like solo home runs and not a lot else. As long as he stops walking guys, he's going to probably get you 5-6 innings. Like I always say, give me a K per inning. I like my chances. So I'm going Cody Morris. So I think he's a guy that I definitely want to see his last few starts because Cleveland knows what they're doing with their pitching, and he could be one of those kind of later round guys next year. That could be quite entertaining to me because the little improvements we've seen this year, if he becomes a staple in that rotation, could be a fun one to look at. So Cody Morris will be my pitcher for the week.
Morris is interesting because as you're talking about, I'm pulling up his game log, and yeah, like that walk rate looks terrible, but
it's like one start.
His one start is 5 walks against the Angels. His other 3 starts, I mean, that start happened, whatever, but could have just been a bad day. His other starts, 2 walks, 1 walk, and double-digit whiffs in each of his last 2. So I like it, man.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. But did you want to cover any of the good matchups that you have written down there, or do you want to go to the bullpen?
We'll hit on just a couple matchups from the HQ matchup tool this weekend. Your easiest matchups are the White Sox. They get 3 against Detroit, who, man, just playing out the string.
Yeah,
they've got
Erod literally in motion.
Yeah, it's been a long year. New leadership for next season, so maybe that will inspire some hope. But Erod, Hutchinson, and Alexander are going against the White Sox. This is like the least relevant postseason. I have no idea what the ratings will draw for this series, but Miami and Washington play each other this weekend.
This reminds me of the Bush Bowl in football back in the day.
Yeah, it's bad, but because these teams are so bad, probably a lot of these guys are available on waivers. And again, if you're in a deeper league and you're just playing matchups you have, like for an example, you just brought up Altuve, guys who may be day-to-day or whatever, you need guys who are going to play. Miami's lineup is terrible, but they're getting Josiah Gray, Eric Fetty, Anibal Sanchez, all right-handers. So any lefties on Miami is a fine call. Houston gets 3 right-handers at Baltimore, and then we talked about the Coors Series. So those are the easiest ones. The hardest matchups, and this is like by far from the HQ tool, is Oakland. Again, you don't have many A's, but they get Bassett, DeGrom, and Scherzer. That does not get that much harder than that over a weekend. And honestly, that's probably maybe we'll talk about postseason or something next week or whatever. But the Mets might be my pick just because it's devastating so hard. Rotation. Yeah, it's so hard to get through that rotation.
Yep.
So I mean, just those 2 guys, they're rolling right now. Toronto, Tampa is another series this weekend. Toronto gets, that's a pretty tough. It's Jeffrey Springs, Rasmussen, and who we just talked about, Shane McClanahan this weekend. So Springs, we talked about Springs a couple weeks ago, and I'll admit, it looks like that one short outing from him. I think it was like a 3-inning, 39-pitch outing a couple outings ago. That was just a blip. Springs has pitched well the last 2 games. So tough matchup for Toronto there. And then any St. Louis lefties, they get a brutal weekend. They get Heaney, Kershaw, and Anderson, Tyler Anderson at LA. So they get 3 lefties. It'll be interesting. St. Louis has a ton of righties who can mash with Goldschmidt, Arenado, but Albert Pujols, he's going to get 3 lefties this weekend. So that's going to be interesting in his quest for 700. I hope hell he gets it.
I hope he does too. I don't want him to go to the offseason at $6.99. That would really, really suck. But we'll see what happens. I kind of like the St. Louis action there because I love targeting Heaney and company. So that could be fun, but could be a good series. Like you said, LA, St. Louis, Philly, Atlanta, Toronto, Tampa Bay. got some good potential playoff matchups out there. I know Vlad Sedler tweeted out, if the season ended now, here's your playoff setup. And there's some interesting matchups that I guess going into the season, like the Padres are still in the playoffs somehow. It blows my mind.
They are. It's funny, yeah. Like for as bad as they've been and all the headline, and all you need to do is get in. All you need to do is get in.
If you get to the dance.
Yep. You have Darvish. If you have Blake Snell that pitched tonight, recording Wednesday night against St. Louis, take a no-hitter in his 7th, double-digit strikeouts. Like Juan Soto starts heating up. Things can happen.
That would be fun. Anybody can take down the Dodgers. I'd like be a big fan. So make it happen, people.
Fernando Tatis's suspension gets shorter and shorter.
Oh, that's the craziest part. Like, man, I still don't understand how that rule works, but I don't get paid to do that. So it's okay. All right. Let's talk about it. Relief pitcher pickups for the stretch run. Like we talked, most teams' closers are already picked up. You got some guys you can stream, though. There are dudes that are out there that are taking over roles. We already talked about Jorge Lopez is out in Minnesota, so it should be Duran's show potentially. Jose Leclerc's still out there in a lot of leagues. There's a bunch of guys out there, but we're going to hit on some of the higher rated pitchers, relief pitchers, according to Baseball HQ, and some other great stats. So, Ryan, what do we have in this week's Bloom board?
All right. So this week we've got, this is kind of like, I think a little hidden gem at HQ is we've got a bullpen indicators page that is like super informative. I think it rivals like roster resource. Roster resource is really nice in terms of like they have like the grid of who pitched, how many pitches, and what was the like decision or the result, which is really useful. At HQ, we've got a bullpen indicators grid that basically goes through, looks at the skills, both year to date, last 31 days, but also usage metric called leverage index. And this isn't like an HQ specific thing. I don't think we came up with it. I probably should have looked up for proper credit who came up with it, but we use it. And leverage index is basically a gauge to measure the importance or the leverage of a game when that reliever comes in. So your higher, I mean, this is pretty simple stuff. I don't know exactly how it's calculated, but the higher leverage index score that you have as a reliever means you're entering the game in higher leverage situations. And in terms of fantasy, like, it doesn't necessarily mean, I don't use it to really say like this could be the next saves guy. That kind of depends. Like some of your high leverage guys stay high leverage, and that's it. So I don't know if it's an indicator for like someone who could be a closer down the road, but for this specific purpose for these last 10 games, it's a fantastic indicator for who's being used in spots where you could get that vulture win, or you might get used on a team that's fighting for playoff positioning. Your highest leverage relievers are going to get pushed to the max over these last 2 weeks. So leverage index is something that that is really useful right now. And so I put it on the board and combined it with K-BB. Again, kind of the catch-all metric for really any pitcher. So if anyone wants, I didn't put this out there on Twitter, but just because it is the leverage index stuff is behind the HQ paywall. If anyone wants it, I just send me a DM and I can send you the list, or subscribe to Baseball HQ, of course. But happy to share that with you. And basically, I just combined the top leverage index guys with the top K-BB guys who are not closers. Came up with a list of like 15, 16 relievers who I think are going to be pretty useful the rest of the way.
Yeah, I like the list. And you mentioned why that leverage index is so nice. It doesn't mean they're a closer. A lot of these guys have closed or get a chance to close. There's no doubt about that. But the big thing is they're going to get used a lot, like you said, and you got that chance for the wins. We see a couple guys on this list with 6 wins on the year. All these guys have at least one save except 2 at the bottom. And that's because like 7 guys from Atlanta are on this list, it feels like.
Yeah. But Atlanta has AJ Minter, Iglesias, Dylan Lee, and Colin McHugh.
Ridiculous. That's how good. Like Atlanta's filthy. Like a repeat could happen. But let's just start at the top, because Andres Munoz is a guy I've actually rostered off and on throughout the entire season. Yep. When there's been like bad streaming weeks or just I want to like whatever. I've had Andres Munoz because I also thought there'd be times when he'd take over when Seawald was hurt and everything. Yep. So I'm a big Munoz fan. He's he leads the list here in K to walk. And he's got 2 wins, 3 saves, but the strikeouts, the ratios, he's been a closer before. Dude's filthy, absolutely filthy, and he should get a ton of usage as Seattle's fighting for that playoff spot to finish the season. So I think this is a no-brainer. Should be one that should not be on the waiver wires after this weekend, I think.
And that's the kind of thing I think you layer on top of this chart, because the chart is just showing all teams. And so like Munoz is the top guy, 33% K minus walk. And yeah, like Bubba, you said the ratio. I mean, so I put the 2022 stats on here, 90 Ks, 261 ERA, 0.92 whip. Like that's all elite. But the big thing, like you mentioned, Seattle is full throttle right now trying to get in the postseason. Whereas two guys down from this list is Minnesota, Yohan Duran, who again, fantastic, probably just as good as Munoz. But is Minnesota really going to push them? Like, why would they want to do that? So that's the other kind of part I think you need to layer on top of this list is which teams are in position, battling for position in the playoffs for seeding or just to get in and target those guys. So Munoz probably is taken in 15 teamers.
Yes.
But 12s where like you're deciding between maybe 3 or 4 games from Munoz in a week versus like Bailey Falter. Unless you really, really need wins, and that's all you need. I'm opting for these middle relievers the rest of the way.
Munoz is only 21% rostered in FBCOCs. So
in 12 teamers. Okay.
Yeah. So that is definitely a move that needs to be made this week if you're out there for the stretch run. AJ Minter, the top of the 4 on this list, at least of the 4 Atlanta relievers, nutsack as he likes to be called. I didn't make that up. Right?
Really?
Oh yeah. You didn't know that?
I didn't know that.
Oh no, that came out last year in the playoffs. That's his nickname. Like they made a bobblehead and on it says nutsack. Yes.
How did I miss this? I knew they had like the night shift thing, and how did I miss this?
Oh yeah, this is his nickname. He's electric. Like his personality, top-notch stuff here from AJ Minter, and he's been outstanding this season, just like last year. Massive lefty specialist, going to get used late in the game against the top lefties they face. Just for fun here, Atlanta over the next few games, they got like Philly, Washington, the Mets, and Miami. So you got a few lefties there. He'll get the piece through at the end, but lots of strikeouts here. Great ratios again. 5 wins on the season. So he does get that late inning action that proves to be pivotal these days.
Just can't believe you just blurted out nutsack in the middle of it.
I've done worse things. Done worse things.
Yeah, done worse things.
I'll save the good ones for first pitch, guys. Come on out, check it out.
Yeah, for the lobby bar. Yeah. 5 wins, 5 saves, like you mentioned, 85 strikeouts. Like there's not many guys in baseball that have that. Atlanta is obviously fighting the Mets right now. Like that's going to be a fantastic race that we were just kind of talking about before. Like they're going to push Minter as hard as they can. So similar reason to Munoz of why you need to at least consider him if you just need to kind of hold it down. Because the other thing and we've talked about this on the pod before, but like ratios versus counting stats, like ratios work both ways. If your competition is trying to go for wins and Ks, and they do kind of take these 5th starters of guys that are just grasping at straws, they get blown up. Like those ratios, I mean, you can gain a lot of ground in ratios right now just by your opponents kind of messing up. So at least these guys just kind of stabilize it.
And there are some blowups out there right now, folks. Ask Corbin Burns owners, Wade Miley. Go down the list. Sonny Gray. There's been a lot of them right now.
Yep.
Yeah, so this has been a brutal week for some guys you were trusting in the stretch run. I'm going to pass through Yohan Duran. You kind of mentioned him earlier. The dude's great. We know it. Minnesota, though, I don't know what you got going there. Great pickup if he's available. Like, go for it. He actually legit might get saves. I'll say that. So you got that going. But what I want to hit on another Brave real quick is Rafael Iglesias, former closers for the Angels. And he's still been very, very good with the Braves. He's probably going to be their closer starting next year. He's still 2 years under contract. The reason I wanted to mention him with Minter here is they're going to be basically they're the righty-lefty, like high leverage guy. That's what they're going to be. They're both going to get used super late in the game. And Kenley's been struggling. So you could see scenarios where if there's a lot of lefties in the ninth or they want to give Kenley an extra day off, we could see Iglesias or Minter actually get a save chance down the stretch here. So that's something else to keep in mind because like we mentioned with Seattle and you mentioned earlier in the show, the Braves are fighting with the Mets. They're going to go fight to the end. They play them next week also. So you could see a lot of Iglesias and Minter, and I wouldn't be shocked if you see either one in the ninth either.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Like Jansen, he's kind of been up and down. His last 4 have been scoreless, so he looks like he's riding the ship. But before that, 2 earned runs, 1, 2, 2, and those were in a span of 6 appearances. So like, that's a really good point. Depending on the matchups, either one of these two guys could be there. Iglesias, I'm guessing his leverage index is inflated a bit just because this is like a full season thing. So it was really high. Well, maybe not.
Yeah, wasn't a whole lot of leverage chances in Anaheim. Let
me stop myself halfway.
Yeah. Ask Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani how the playoffs feel, as everyone's mentioned 20,000 times by now.
Yeah. So maybe scratch that.
I would love to see if he had like a rolling graph chart of this. Watch like it all of a sudden just came up when he went to Atlanta because he didn't have any.
When he left the closer role and went to the middle relief,
all of a sudden his leverage went through the roof. Yeah. Oh, that'd be great. We
need to get Toby for that rolling graph for that.
Yeah, that's his world. Let's go to Tampa Bay. I'm actually surprised only a couple guys are on this list, maybe because Fairbanks has been injured so much this season. He deserves to be here as well. But Jason Adam has been sneaky. If you're in the know, you've seen it. He had a run of getting saves, like Tampa Bay always moving guys around. But even when he's not getting saves, tons of strikeouts, amazing ratios. The dude's been very, very good. He's been good for the last few years. Like last year in Chicago, the ratios weren't great, but still a massive strikeout guy. And now he's getting full run in Tampa Bay. So he's a sneaky arm. We know how Tampa Bay loves to do things. We already talked about, maybe they shorten Jeffrey Springs. Maybe they shorten Shane McClanahan. They're going to use a lot of bullpen. And if all of a sudden one of those guys goes 4 innings, and I'm not saying Jason Adam comes in the 5th, but you know how these scenarios work out, there's going to be vulture saves. And if anybody's going to do it, it's going to be Tampa Bay. Or for vultured wins, I mean. So I like Adam a lot. Maybe not so much for that piggyback part, but he's going to get used heavily as well.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. Actually, something I didn't really think about was the length of your starting rotation. And so, we've talked about McClanahan a couple times already, Springs a couple weeks ago, that sort of thing. So, that availability, that pie is bigger in Tampa Bay, most likely for relief innings. There's a lot of slices to kind of dole out, but the size of that pie is probably bigger in Tampa than it is on other teams. And
like
so
the Giants. No, the pie's small. Don't do it.
Yeah, the pie is very small, as are the chances for wins and saves on that squad. So Jason Adam, 8 saves, 0.69 ERA, 148, or sorry, 0.69 WHIP, 148 ERA. He's on here. The other Tampa guy, Brooks Raley, who's also been this is Tampa. 8 saves for Adam, 6 saves for Brooks Raley, but like Brooks Raley has a sub-2 ERA. Like it's just crazy what they can do with relievers. And the nice thing is there's so many of them that it's maybe just put together a bid list of like 3 of them and all for $1, and you're bound to get one of them if you need it.
Yeah, I'm gonna hop around now based on leverage index. I'm gonna jump to Giovanny Gallegos, as he's one of the higher guys here. 24% K to walk, 13 saves, 3 wins. Most of those saves came early. The leverage might have been early too when he was the closer, but he's still been very, very, very good. If you look at his numbers, outside of 3 innings or 3 runs he allowed on the 7th, it's been no runs in every outing until August 13th. Like he's been very good. Strikeouts here and there, lots of holds if you're in saves holds leagues. I actually added him in 2 leagues this past week. I started doing my spec relief ads for $1. Thinking this is a stretch run guy I want with St. Louis. So I like Gallegos a lot. He's not going to be the closer, but he should get a lot of chances late in the game.
Like quietly one of the best pitchers in baseball for a long time. Dude has had, I should look this up, but he's had a sub-1 WHIP each of the last 4 seasons.
And he's not the closer.
Crazy.
That's insane.
And gets like no credit for it because he's not the closer. 14 saves in 21, 13 saves this year. But it's hard to be that consistent as a reliever in today's game. So, absolutely. The only thing with Gallegos is the fly ball tendencies, like 55% fly ball rate this year, 47% last year. So he's a little prone to the long ball, but that's nitpicking, man. Like dude is elite. So, and again, St. Louis is in the mix. Maybe they will kind of try and schedule things out and get Gallegos and Helsley and that sort of thing prime for the postseason, but someone who should see some high leverage stuff coming up.
Most definitely. Joe Mantiply, I wanted to talk about him. There's a point in the season when Melanson sucked and now Ian Kennedy sucks and Reyes Morantes is supposed to be the closer. I've witnessed that show. Good stuff. Sometimes he likes to visit Pablo in the buffet line and forgets how to pitch. So we'll see how Reyes Moronto goes. But Joe Mantiply has been very good off and on this year. Everyone thought he'd be the closer, got a couple sniffs of it, scuffled a bit, got out of the closing duty, and has pitched very, very well again. So, they might not be super productive when it comes to the D-backs, but like I told you before the show, they're beating up on the Dodgers every game this week. So you never know. They got the Giants this week, and that's usually high leverage situations for guys. So what's your thoughts on a guy like Mantiply? Because most guys we've talked about already, they're on teams we're expecting to compete, where the D-backs are just kind of out there running young players and trying to figure things out. And they're also using a lot of young pitchers that aren't going, like, only going 5 or 6. So that plays well for him as well.
Virginia Tech Hokie, Joe Mantiply. I need to preface.
My bad. I did not give the proper due. I am so sorry.
There's not many of them active. So, but yeah, it's and actually like Arizona. So you were mentioning tonight, like they're Madison Bumgarner is beating Dustin May in LA. Like, I mean, Arizona's not great, but they score runs. Like they are going to be in games at least for the rest of the way. And Mantiply, 15% swing strike rate, 64% first pitch strike rate. Those are two metrics that I really like to use to look at kind of at the per pitch level, how good he is. 279 ERA. That's right there with his skills. So like, yes, a heck of a lot better than Ian Kennedy. And what's to say Arizona doesn't at least try Mantiply out in the closer role these last 10, 14 days just to kind of audition for next season. Obviously, the Ian Kennedy experiment predictably did not go as planned, and kind of no reason not to. But at the very least, Mantiply is, again, just another one of those guys who is going to pitch in high leverage like he's been doing all year and pitch effectively.
And there's some other fun names here, like Jose Alvarado. We've seen him hit the ups and downs of Alvarado before. Caleb Thielbar has been very good, but again, it's the Twins. So what are we going to get out of that? But he's been very, very good. Evan Phillips. We have Trevor Stephen and Matt Bush. Those guys are kind of names I don't think many would think about on this list, especially Trevor Stephen for Cleveland. Been very, very good.
Yep.
So any thoughts on any of these other guys we have not mentioned, because they're not all the most popular of names, and they're not on the biggest team like the Dodgers, of course, but these guys are probably going to get a little bit of a run towards the end. The one thing I will say, just like the D-backs, for a lot of these bad teams, they're running out young pitchers that don't go deep. It's not just the D-backs. It's a lot of them. So you're going to get a lot of bullpen usage down the stretch. And the Brewers have a ton of injured pitchers. So you're going to get a lot of bullpen usage. So something to think about also. It's not always just the contenders. That makes more sense, I guess, if you want saves and wins. But if you want Ks and ratios even, you got some of these other teams that won't be too shabby either.
Yeah, and I think one name that really stands out is Evan Phillips. 6 wins this season, has been just elite, 0.75 whip. I think LA is one of those teams, and you kind of mentioned this, but when we were talking about the Rockies, LA has no reason to push their starters the last 2 weeks of the season. So I think that's a team whose rotation is not going to go very deep. And again, that bullpen pie, I'm starting to get hungry, gets bigger in the bullpen. There's just more innings to eat for that bullpen. And Evan Phillips, man, just fantastic. I remember I picked him up after the All-Star break week, and so this is kind of coming full circle with the last half week of the season. I picked up Evan Phillips in my main event for that Thursday. I think LA had 4 games, Thursday to Sunday. Evan Phillips got 2 wins in those 4 games, and just little stuff like that can be the difference. So Phillips is good. Trevor Stephen, as you mentioned, Bubba, like really good. And actually, Cleveland is kind of really scary with Karinchak and Class A in terms of like postseason runs. If you get to like the 7th inning and you're facing Cleveland, that's a knockout bullpen.
Yeah, it's a definite knockout bullpen. A team that I can't remember completely, but I think they still have a long shot, but a chance to get in the playoffs. Like between Cleveland, Minnesota, and even the White Sox, I don't know as of today, they're all battling.
Yeah, Cleveland's most likely winning the Central.
That's insane, absolutely insane.
They're 6 games up on the White Sox. Like they're looking good.
Remember in the beginning of the season, everyone's like, "What is Cleveland doing selling?" Which I still agree. What are they doing selling? But
still, the point stands. But
yeah, they're gonna somehow. So then it just makes the ownership look even better. I think they look better and do it all over again. So yeah, I digress. This is not what this show's for. But yes,
Tristan, we talked about like quote unquote frail starters at the beginning, at the top when we're talking about McClanahan. Tristan McKenzie, holy God, he's been someone who, like, I wrote him off. I just look at the body. I'm like, no way he's lasting. He went 8 innings, 13 strikeouts tonight. Like, that dude is peaking at the right time. So, yeah, Cleveland's in, man. They're going to get there. I think they're going to face that 6th wild card, or 3rd wild card, 6th overall seed in the AL, which right now would be the Mariners. And the Mariners are struggling to score against Oakland this week. So could be easy path for Cleveland to get to the next round.
Another pitcher that disappointed, Luis Castillo, in a great matchup versus Oakland. So, yeah, it was just one of those weeks when you need these guys the most. Boom goes the dynamite. So,
Yep.
Well, Ryan, any final thoughts? As we have no listener questions this week, as football season is in full force. So, any final thoughts as we, like I said earlier, if you count the rest of this week, we roughly have about 2 weeks to go.
Yeah, 2 weeks from next Wednesday will be the closing day. It will be one of the least productive days that I've had at work.
Yep.
For speaking for myself, it'll be a fun day. Hopefully, there's some postseason positioning available, but then also anyone out there, like if you've got it on the line going into game 162, like that's pretty much all you can ask for. So just best of luck these last few weeks, and especially head to head for those of you battling out for that championship. Enjoy the sweat. Like I said, I miss it. Most years when I'm at least sweating out a league or two or whatever, it's stressful, but it's fun, and I do miss that thrill this year. But we'll do some retrospectives, and we'll be sweating it out this time again next year.
No doubt about it. There's always accountability. I've never been one to shy away from that. So we'll definitely talk about the goods, talk about the bads. Plenty of bads this year. So we'll see how that all plays out. But keep grinding, because like Ryan said, and we talked before the show, is even though we're not going to win it all, we're still competing for the integrity factor of it. Because that's just, at least that's how I am. Like, I'd rather, if I'm 8th, I want to finish 6th or something. Like, I always grind and try to do something. But and if anything, it makes Guilds tweet me that I'm annoying him in Fab. So like I'm all aboard these trains. But
that's all the motivation you needed, man.
I paid $350 for that league too, buddy. I got $1,000 in Fab. Let's go. So yeah, we're gonna see what happens. But yeah, it'll be fun. Looking forward to it. Like, part of me is like, okay, I'm ready for it to be over. Part of me is like, well, it sucks, it's over. So we'll see how it goes. But good luck to your Hokies on Thursday night.
Thank you.
And we'll be back with you guys next week with, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if it's even worth previewing the final week of the season, or if we'll start retrospecting, or we'll surprise. If you guys have any questions, making a listener episode, bring it. Do something.
Right.
Like we'll think about it and see what we can do. But we'll have some more content for you. As always, remember, first pitch Arizona. It's like 6 weeks away now.
6 weeks from tonight, you will be in the cut. I
will be at the bar watching a playoff game. That's what I'll be doing most likely. Or no, I'll be at a game. I could be at a game. I might be at a ballpark right now, drinking a beer with Ryan Bloomfield. We'll see what happens.
I'll be praying that my Thursday early morning, I think 5 a.m., 6 a.m. flight is still on time.
Yeah, I'll be there. So we'll see what happens. But it'll be a fun one. So if you guys can join us there. Again, if you have any questions, hit either one of us up. Ryan's the veteran. I'm the rookie. We could all help you. But more importantly, check out Ryan on Twitter at RyanBHQ and his work at Baseball HQ. I'm on Twitter at BDentric. And this was another episode of Bubba the Bloom. Catch you guys next week.